As the deadline for the submission of candidates' lists for the election quickly approaches, Adewole Adebayo has been elected flag-bearer of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, where he polled 1,546 votes to defeat his closest rival, Khadija Okunu Lamidi, who polled 83 votes. In his victory speech, he promises to run an all-inclusive government and make the country great again. Well, let's speak to the man himself. Adewole Adebayo joins us now in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations for emerging the candidate of your party. But let's speak to reality. The SDP currently has no elected office position in the country, in 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. What are your chances? It's not a dominant party. It doesn't have structures. How do you intend to do it?
Well, thank you. First, we have some elected officials in some legislative houses. That's number one. Number two, the fact that we're not a dominant party is a plus in this season, because the dominant party have been the dominant problems of the country, and the people are looking for a third way, and that's what's leading to what we're doing. And structure, we have a lot of people. We have elected executive in every ward, in every local government, in every state in the country. And with the main structure is the people. And if you look at our national convention yesterday, every ward in Nigeria is represented. So we have the people.
Well, let's just get into, the matter, or rather what your party hopes to address. Your party has been described as a veritable alternative, using those words, advocating new initiatives in the administration of the country. What do you plan to do differently?
Well, first we want to be honest, because the politics of today has been quite dishonest. They're mostly stealing money and wasting time, it's evident. Secondly, we want to be serious. We want to pay attention to the work and cut down the drama. Three, we want to be professional and technocratic in our approach to governance, because even the most basic services cannot be delivered. The government cannot secure the people, it cannot secure itself, and it cannot administer or husband the resources of the country. People who are supposed to be the guardrails of accountability are actually thieves. Accountant General of the Federation is being accused by its own government of stealing billions of naira. And the governor of Central Bank is playing poker with the public resources, trying to run for office or the other. And so every institution, which is the Economic Financial Crime Commission, the person who is the head of it is either arrested for some malfeasance or something. So the government is not neat, it's not prepared. In terms of security, the government cannot secure itself. Then even religious houses cannot be secured. So nothing works. So if we just make government works, do simple things, we can't run a government.
I would say easier said than done. I mean, because we have seen, one administration after the other blame the previous for the problems bedeviling the country. Now, when you say that you will ensure that Nigerians no longer see the provision of their basic amenities as an answered prayer, just talk me through how you plan to do that. Remember that we run a budget, of course, where most of it goes to recurrent expenditure. We are paying off debts, and very little is going to capital expenditure. What is your strategy to address that?
First, what they call budget is fraud, mainly. Why? Because I've been saying for several months, they do a lot of off-balance sheet activities. So when you examine the books, you can never get the true health of the treasury. For example, it will surprise anyone that the government can stay in power and 80% of the crude oil produced in this country is stolen outright. Now, and you see a lot of other wastages. So if you're looking at the balance sheet, and the balance sheet is full of wrong entries. So majority of Nigerian resources are stolen. They don't enter the books at all. So you will see that right now the crude oil price is rising. Russia, that's at war, besieged by many enemies, has its currency rising. Ours is going down. People who are running election or doing primaries have more access to dollars than industries. So basically, if you look at the books that they are keeping, which are false books, which are outdated books, if you look at the medium-term expenditure framework that they write, you will see that you will think that Nigeria has a population of 20 million, and we are still 1954. So if you look at their book, they will say, for example, 95% is going for debt repayment. First, now, No, that's not the case. What is the case is that majority of the money is kept away outside the book. If you look at the MDAs, whether you go to NCC, NITDA, or you go to NMA, they have a lot of slush funds. Even in TED fund, that's why they have problem with ASU. So they're not keeping good books. So don't look at their books. You go to audit the book of the government with the mind of a criminal investigator. You don't just look at it like you're just studying accounting 101. So if you look at that, then you look at the spending that they do. You look at the way they do procurement. There's no way the country will not be bankrupt with that level of procurement.
I don't hear so much of what you're going to do differently, but
yes.
You mentioned in your earlier response the Nigerians are no longer safe even in places of worship.
Yeah.
And I'd like to start from there because just today, the federal government has fingered ISWAP
yes.
as the perpetrators of that attack. What would you do differently when it comes to securing Nigerians' lives and property? What
I would do differently, and each of the things that I say, I'm just saying I'm not going to keep bad books that they're keeping. I'm not going to steal the money. But on the issue of security, the problem of security in Nigeria, if you want to be honest, on what I would do differently, is to make sure that people in my government are not profiting or benefiting from the insecurity. Whether you call it ISWAP, you call it Boko Haram, call it whatever name, that's not that important. What's important is the strength of the armed forces. If you look at our armed forces during the time of the Nigerian Civil War, which is not too far behind us, you could see that rapidly, within a short time, the army was able to triple its size. Many divisions were created, including the 3rd Marine Commando, and it was well managed by the army. Even though those who were running at that time, Chief Adewole Adebayo, other people like that, complained about the efficiency of the army, but the army rose to the occasion. During the years of ECOMOG, the crisis in Liberia and Sierra Leone immediately allowed Nigeria to set up an international operation. And we were able to do what UN used to do before. And we were able to do, people like Joshua Dongoyaro and co. were ordinary generals, but within a short time, we were able to run wars in 3 or 4 countries and maintain peace. The same thing we did, the US failed in Somalia. Nigerian army went there, that's why we have Mogadishu barracks now. So in terms of intelligence, in terms of running the services, right now, if you know what's going on, they politicize the office of the NSA. So you can't have proper intelligence because much of the intelligence is used for regime survival. So we do our things differently to see that offices that are created are not used for politics, are used to make sure that the infrastructure of state runs very well.
Let's go back to your chances at the polls in 2023. I mean, SDP at one time used to be the party to reckon with. We cannot say much of that today, as it were. We've talked about the politics of money, yes, ruling the day. Currently, now with roughly 19.4 million Nigerians set to face acute hunger between June and August of this year, that's according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, I would really want to hear from you. How do you plan to contend with the major parties, who, of course, we know are playing it differently? How do you plan to reach out to Nigerians, a not so popular party, without any form of inducement?
First, Nigerians are tired of inducement. They realize that it's a waste of their time.
Are they?
They are tired.
In the face of acute hunger?
Yeah, they are tired because the kind of incentive they give to them doesn't address the hunger. Maybe it's just one day, you give someone money, 5,000, 2,000. We are educating people.
But don't you agree that that goes a long way for a very hungry person and someone who doesn't have anything at all?
It doesn't at all, because you will see that giving somebody 5,000 naira and you think that person is going to vote is if that person doesn't know the value of the food. And what we are doing is to make sure people know the value of the food, to know that you and the Minister of Finance are equal, you are both citizens. And if you take 5,000 naira, you elect someone who's going to steal 150 billion and you'll be in poverty for good. So what has happened in the past is that we had a short election season. The political parties like ours will not be independent. They will be sponsored by the bigger parties so that you don't create alternatives. This time around, we are coming out independently, creating alternatives. We are going to talk to the people. We are not just going to be on morning shows and all of that like them. We have to use asymmetric methods to reach the people, to get to every household and those do big expenditure. That way you will not attract big money to your party, because big money come with big problems, big promises.
Big problems.
Yes.
You say you run an all-inclusive government. What does that mean in practical terms?
Yeah. It means that those who have been shut out of government because they don't have sponsors, they don't have money, but who have ideas, are going to be put there. If you see someone like me who's an ordinary man, I'm just a lawyer, a simple lawyer in town, I'm able to become a presidential candidate of a major party without breaking the bank and without running to any godfather. So if we can extend that down the line, down the ballot, and we get honest people who are not afraid of anything, who have no baggage, and who have the wherewithal. And in terms of interaction, in terms of media scrutiny like the one we are doing now, you will be able to see that Nigeria has alternatives, because Nigeria used to assume that they needed to take only the APC or the PDP, which means you either take malaria or you take typhoid. So when you realize that it's a healthy alternative, we have enough time now to push that, and other alternative parties that are bringing out candidates now, we're going to keep talking to them to see that we give Nigerians a broad outline of a new pathway so that Nigerians can understand. Nigerians are very smart people. What they don't want is being fooled by the big one and then being fooled by the small one as well. So if we can come out, lay out our policies, show, and one of the easiest way to demonstrate that you can run a government is to run a competent campaign. So, and the smaller parties in the past will just sit down at home and do nothing. So if we can run a competent campaign, they will say, okay, if they can do this, and if you look at our convention, to be honest, we did it better than most of them. The EFCC didn't come to our place looking for money launderers and all of that. So, and we did it effectively, we did it competently. INEC said we are the best they've seen so far.
I'm just going to ask you to answer this just in one nutshell. Yeah. It seems it's a big determining factor in the whole political scene. Who are you likely to pick as your running mate?
I'm going to pick a Nigerian that Nigerians will be very happy with, someone from northern Nigeria, someone who's well experienced, because however competent you are, you need someone who has some experience so that you can be guided, because the office is not a joke. You need wisdom.
Adewole Adebayo, presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP. Thank you so much for being on the News Tonight. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.